Good day, good morning. Weekend preview-ish I'm doing now because there's quite a lot of action that's going on. We're getting very close to the Cheltenham Festival now, and I know a lot of people all think this might be too close to the festivals for some runners. Yes, that may be true for some, and some races really aren't good form lines going through to Cheltenham, but there is some nice action that's going on. There's a few horses that I think are very, very interesting and noteworthy, which is the point of doing the preview. There's probably a few bets to be had this weekend for me personally. And then also with a view towards Cheltenham, there's a few that I really feel like they just need to be talked about. I'm going to go through some Saturday runners, some Sunday runners, and then there's a couple for next week that deserve a mention as well in terms of entries. Unfortunately, Gowran Park's off tomorrow, so that's the Red Mill Trials Day. That'll be rescheduled, but again, sort of moving-ish towards Cheltenham, maybe getting a little bit too close. Who knows? Anywho, what we're going to do is we'll look at the stuff that's happening this weekend. I'm going to go straight on with Ascot. This one should be fairly quick for me to skim through, really, in terms of stuff for the weekend and then stuff for Cheltenham. Really, this is all one eye on Cheltenham, a lot of the stuff, but I still think there could be opportunities to have little bits of bets in there. Me and Darren have done a quick preview for Colossus Bets where we talked about some of these races. There's Novices Hurdle here at Ascot. Galleyhill should be winning it. Midnight River has got some decent standard with that Leamington Novices form. This El Biffy Biffin for Ben Paulin, I think he probably could be quite a nice horse. He's clearly had loads of issues. In fact, his tissues 50-1 offends me a bit, but maybe it's the depth of the race. And the Olympian for Alan King. Alan King used to be part owner of this. He sold it to JP. Obviously want to go jumping with it. They've had a nice break after it being on the flat, so I'd suggest he could be worth keeping an eye on for going forward. So it looks a nice race to watch. I think there could be more than just one horse to take out of that. Not necessarily for Cheltenham, but for spring festivals or going into next year. Of course, horses that run in there that get beat, that haven't won so far, will be second season novices next year. The Reynolds Novices Chase. I like horses in here that stay on. There might be an eye-catching fast finisher. Ground is probably going to be quite tacky at Ascot, so I don't really know how well suited this would be for horses going on to Cheltenham. It's a tricky-ish looking race to be confident in the slightest. Of the horses that I think are the Dower Stairs remastered, probably fits that bill. So I'd be semi-interested watching him. I'd like to kind of watch the race, but yeah, not sold on Severano staying the trip, and I think we could be looking at a bunch of 140s horses, but never mind. And then some handicaps going on there, lots of potential plotty stuff. Jerry's back should be winning that handicap. This handicap hurdle here, there's a few potentially interested in there. Now, Pylon's been novice chasing. He's won 3-8 when he was second, just beaten ahead by Indefatigable in the Martin Pipe. He's won 4-3 now, so he's a year older, a year stronger, only £5 higher, but I suspect this could be a run and then go to Martin Pipe again. So whether they're going to be trying with him tomorrow or not, I don't know, but potential line in there. Whether I don't think we'll get dropped or anything, but would still get in the Martin Pipe sub 145, won't you? So what? I mean, I know this is worth some money, but you know what I'm trying to say. I don't think he'd be trying. Interested to keep a half an eye on though. Malaya, I kind of like in this race. I mean, it was well beaten here, but it runs its best form over this sort of trip, the 2 mile 3-ish. This ground will suit. May be tempted to have a bet on that price dependent. So, yeah, I don't think the prices that are quoted on the right-hand side here are accurate. I think there could be old stuff that's in there, but yeah, Malaya's semi-tempting this weekend, but wouldn't be trustworthy, wouldn't be looking to get stuck in on that. The Ascot Chase, I looked at Surname thinking, these are prices are definitely miles behind. Looked at Surname thinking, at Ascot, 2 mile 5, back on his favourable conditions track, all of that sort of stuff. Better this entry when he was 9-4 in the week. That was when entries came out. Obviously, he's odds on now. The point of him being value back then is you could back him for 500 quid at 2-1, knowing full well that you could lay him at evens and you get a free roll for a whole point. So yeah, I couldn't be backing him odds on. And the fact they've applied cheap pieces on him now makes me wonder how he's working at home, whether he's starting to get a little bit lazy or something. And these quirky types of horses can potentially go off the boil fast and then take a while to come back. So who knows? Riders on the Storm, last year's winner. Take an absolute leap of faith, but the fact that he's the rank outsider in a race that's not that deep, sit back and watch probably. There's another handicap hurdle here. Don't like the race at all, so no point talking about anything in there. And then I don't really like the mare's bumper either. So Saturday's fairly done there, and not really too much for talking towards Cheltenham, is there? We'll look at Haydock, quickly skim through the stuff at Haydock. And then there will definitely, there will potentially be horses in here that I'm missing out on. That might have form lines for handicaps going into Cheltenham because they might be a little bit lower down the pecking order of the way I'm looking at things, but I want to try and keep these videos as concise as I sort of can. The Rendlesham hurdle, so soft ground at Haydock. I think there is still due some rain. I don't know how boggy it's going to get there, but we know what Haydock is like as a track. I don't like this as any sort of an intro into a stairs hurdle. This year, the stairs hurdle, we've got loads of horses that will be running in there. Reserve Tank, Colin Tizard said's going there. Hinted that Kemble going to go there from Willie Mullins. Roxana, we don't know where she's going to be split. I think she'll go mare's hurdle, but it's going to be competitive. There's going to be genuinely quite a few horses in there that have probably got chances. There may be something that's running in here. I don't know how, obviously they'll be trying, but there might be something that's running in here that may be interesting for handicap hurdles, dropping back Coral Cup sort of trip maybe come Cheltenham, but we'll have to see. I just don't think we've got stairs hurdle winner in here, despite the fact that we've got last year's stairs hurdle winner in here. So, yeah, it'd be a good race to watch, but I just think we'll just sort of caveat it and just wind ourselves back a little bit that it's probably not going to be stairs hurdlish form. I mean, if something absolutely dots up, you might change my opinion a little bit, but probably not. Not fussed about the Grand National Trial, to be honest. The Juvenile is really interesting. Nassalam, Gary Moore, Jamie and Josh are riding at Ascot and then Wincanton respectively. Got a couple of rides over there that they must obviously quite like. The fact that they're not fussed about anyone riding Nassalam and are just letting Dave Noonan go on it. No knocking to Dave Noonan, but either makes you think they're not so fussed about what the result is, or because I think this race will probably suit him, or they're probably thinking that he should be going quite well in this. Now, Monmerle's the real interesting one, because Paul Nicholls, I swear he's targeting Aintree this year more so than ever. Like, I think he's really making a conscious effort for it. Monmerle's going to run here and then run at Aintree in the Triumph, or the Juvenile there. Wouldn't have a chance in our proper Triumph at Cheltenham, I don't think, but the Irish have got that by the balls. I don't know whether they'll be coming over for the Aintree version, so Monmerle's smart move, I think. Ellen Valley, wind up for the first time, tongue tie for the first time. Paddy Brennan rides here. Now, Paddy Brennan's riding here for this race, but he's got a few other rides. There is Hurricane Harvey, I think it is, over at Ascot. Looks like Fergal O'Brien's like chance over there, but they've sent Conor Brace just for that ride. So whether Paddy comes here for more rides or whether he wants to come to ride Ellen Valley, this looks fairly competitive-ish race, I think. But all of that said, I kind of half like Nassalam for a prospect going forward. I think Monmere will probably be the one that's going to win it. And when you're looking at the prices like that, they're not far off of what I'm saying there. Be an interesting race. Definitely well worth the watch. Ain't going to give us any clues for Cheltenham, I don't think. This is the one we want to get ourselves stuck into. So Pertemps Handicap Hurdle. I mentioned this on Anti-Up the last episode, but more so on the episode prior because we were looking at Newbury going ahead. Champagne Platinum is in here. Champagne Platinum hopefully is going to qualify for the Pertemps come March. I proper rate Champagne Platinum off of this mark. 138, he's going to bolt up at some point. Whether he does it in the actual qualifier or not, I'm slightly a little bit worried, but you'd think they'd try and be smart and just get him qualified. I'm going to have to see what prices they open up in this race because it happened with Phoenix Way last year with Harry Fry. That did win. Barry Gerrick tried to do everything he could to try and not let it win, and then it didn't pan out at Cheltenham. So we'll see. 10 grand for first here, so it's not huge money, but I don't know, maybe from a punting perspective, could be an interesting one. But I like Champagne Platinum. Hopefully he qualifies. Hopefully he just comes sixth and then we're in. The Albert Bartlett Prestige Novice Hurdle, so Grade 2. I like this race quite a lot. We have had, I can't remember the name of it now off the top of my head, I should know this, but there's a horse that has won this not so long ago, or maybe like a decade ago, that did go on to win the Albert Bartlett proper at Cheltenham. We know the Albert Bartlett's quite a wide open race year after year anyway. There's a lot of horses in here that I don't like. Like, I don't think any of these really shout out to me that they're going to be Albert Bartlett horses. One I do need to give a bit of a mention to is Exploiter. Now, the slower and the worse the ground is, the better for this horse. He travels really, really nicely into his races. He does still find for pressure, but he is just one of those that will get himself into a race. Now, when he was behind the Cobb in the River Don, he ran really, really well there. Obviously, the Cobb pulled well clear, but if we look at the winning distances or the distances of the other horses, there was not like a great deal there. So he's sort of 4.5 lengths away from second. He ran a proper race as far as I'm concerned. Now, he rode a little bit more towards the inner, whereas some of the other horses that did better, like the Cobb, for example, was on the outer nearer the rail. So no knocking to Lily Pinch, and she gave him a cracking ride, but I wonder whether if they hold on to him a little bit longer, he might, in this level a race, because the official ratings of these horses is not far different to what that River Don was. And I know the Cobb looks like he's potentially much better than his mark was, but the horses in here that are higher than him, like your Alpha Philippe, like your Mint Condition, I wouldn't be raving about them in a handicap off of their marks. So Exploiter, interesting runner there. I just need to see what sort of price he is. He'll definitely be like running well. If we could get top 4 places on Betfair or something, and we could get even money about that, I'll be happy to steamboat him. But we'll have a look. He's just worth a mention, I think. Whether he's quite up to winning this, I wouldn't completely rule it out, to be honest. He's like a nice little horse, to be fair. Then there's the Hunter Chase. Now, this is one I do want to talk about because the World's End's in there. Everyone's getting a little bit excited about the Manil horses, Excaria 10, etc. The World's End going Hunter Chasing, which is nice. Really nice horse, don't get me wrong. But Bob and Co's the one that I'm so buzzing to see up now. Obviously, it's sad that Dave Maxwell's still not back from his injury. Bob and Co didn't make it to the festival last year, had his few runs, but I think he's a proper horse. And I'm interested to see him run here. And then we'll see what goes on at Cheltenham. And again, no offence to David Maxwell, but if amateurs weren't able to ride at Cheltenham and a proper jockey managed to get on Bob and Co, he could be real good. So I'd be hoping that he's going to run well and go in. I think he's 20s non-runner no bet for the Fox Hunters come March, and Billaway looks the only real obvious one in there. I think anything after that, you could pick many and they'd have a chance. It came to pass that when it last year, he's quite ground dependent. Bob and Co, I think, is a bit more versatile. And like I say, I feel like in this race, despite the luff, I think he's going to go quite well. So he'd be one that's on my radar. Get him in the team book for Cheltenham. Wincanton, Saturday. There's a few nice races here as well. Again, we're getting closer to Cheltenham, so not all roads lead that direction, but there's still some nice horses, and also worth thinking about towards the other spring festivals. Poser Emery's a horse that I know when I spoke to Harry Cobden, he said he likes this horse quite a bit. It's clearly not a supreme standard of horse, but let him go in here under a penalty. Doesn't look the deepest of races. If he wins fairly comfortably there, it'd be interesting to see what they do with him after, what sort of handicap mark he maybe gets. So yeah, that'll be interesting. The novice hurdle that's after this, Hell Red's in there. Now, Hell Red, let's not forget, was not ahead of the Triumph market, but he was very, very close to it earlier on in the season. Now, Paul Nicholls has already said this horse is going to be going to the Boodles. He's got his mark of 134, which Paul Nicholls says looks quite nice. Got the wind up, got the tongue tie. What I'm trying to say here is I don't think they're really going to be looking to go and blow his mark up in this novices hurdle. I think they'd be fairly happy with that 134. So he should be winning this race on paper, as far as I'm concerned. Like, he should be absolutely bolting up, but I'd be hoping that he runs in this and doesn't win, or doesn't win that convincingly, and then I'd be looking at him as a Boodles horse, to be honest. Genuinely. The only thing is he pulled up the last day, so you'd like to see him finish his race, and like I say, he should be winning this. So do you think if he gets beat, they're trying on with him a little bit, or do you think that when he gets beat, there may be an issue with the horse? So maybe tread lightly with this one, but again, potentially non-runner no bet for the Boodles. I'm not 100% sure what price he is, but I think he's smart, this Hell Red, and his action and everything looks like he wants, I'll swear, he wants shit ground, and this is going to be shit ground at Wincanton. So we're probably going to see the best of him here. I can't see him being good enough to go into the Triumph. He could get a £10 rise in here and still be okay for a Boodles in terms of getting in. So even if he won and only went up a few pounds, maybe he's still got enough in his sleeve. Again, we don't want a hard race in here, but this doesn't look very deep. So Hell Red for the Boodles, I feel like he's got to be a bit more than just an afterthought. There was something else going on over here. There he is. Man Like Goshin. So Song for Someone, Tom Simmons got him sewn up for Ascot. Didn't need to go and win a nice race there. Nico de Boinville after, when Nat Chapman said, this could be a champion hurdle horse, Nico was very reluctant to say too much, to be honest, but it sounded more like he was saying that he's been primed for that race and that's what he's won. Feel like this would be a similar story. The Kingwell probably been primed for a race like this. They might take their chance at Cheltenham, but I don't think he stands a chance in a champion hurdle. But he'll be primed for this. And the point of me talking about this horse saying he'll be primed for this is that Goshen, that needs to show a little bit more, is getting £6 from Song for Someone, which means Goshen's got to be getting pretty close in here. Now, I don't know who's going to go off favourite. The logical thing would be you can't be giving Goshen another chance just yet, and Song for Someone would probably be a backable price because Goshen's in the race, but Goshen is 20s for the champion hurdle still. I think the way that I'm looking at this could end up being a bit of a hard race, which would not be ideal going into Cheltenham. And there are other races that Goshen could run in over the spring. But I think he's about 20 to 1 non-run no bet for Champion Hurdle. Now, I couldn't have him for a Champion Hurdle Goshen, even after his Triumph issue last year, where he clearly would have won and bolted up. But for people that are Goshen fans, I'd be semi-tempted to think about if you fancy him at the start of the season when he was like 7 or 8 to 1, and you may have cashed out bets or whatever, then this may be the time to think about getting involved in him, because if he blows up here, there's no way they can go to Cheltenham, which means you run out. And if he runs fairly well here, then they're going to send him to Cheltenham. If he runs well here and gets a hard race, they're not going to ruin him by sending him to Cheltenham. They're going to mind him. So almost feels like a little bit of a freebie, doesn't it? And the perk with that is if you back him to win this race specifically and he runs well and gets beat, and he's a goner this season, then you've lost your money for the bet. Whereas if you back him for this and he runs pants, you'll get your money back non-run no bet, because you can't be going to Cheltenham off the back of a bad run. And if he were to win this, yes, you've lost out on the initial 30 quid you might have won by backing him, but his price will shorten up for the Champion Hurdle. Whether he'll go down to like a 6 to 1 poke remains to be seen. It'll depend how he wins the race. But for people that way inclined, with people that like Goshen, think about that. I won't be doing it myself. Just talking out loud. Then we'll leave that. Freddie Darling for Harry Fly in the last race. Beast mode. Big old field. So that's some Saturday stuff done. As I say, I always say that I'm going to try and keep these concise. There's obviously only so short and quick I can be with stuff. Right, we got props, like some decent races. I'm going to kick off with Market Raisin just because there's only one race I want to look at here. I'm going to go through all of them just to make sure that I'm not missing anything again. Pinning it down. Right, here's the one. The Sydney Banks, rearranged from Huntingdon. This is just to build up the atmosphere for this particular race. Let's not forget that Shishkin took this race last year. That's enough of like comparisons to Supreme winners this year. What I will say is, this is a listed race. This is a fairly useful race. Historically, I know it's been rearranged, it's a different track, and I know because it's been rearranged and it's closer to Cheltenham, it may not fit in with the plans of horses as much. But Manila Drama, right, has got some, like on paper, some form that looks fairly good. Obviously got beat the last day, but that was in a grade 2 at Haydocks, so fair play to it. It battered this Ballybeg, and Ballybeg came out and won twice after that. 140 odd. Whether it's quite up to that level or not, I don't think it is personally, but it's clearly a nice horse. Even go back to his point, like he was behind Sir Gerhard. So there's lots to look at this horse and think the step up in trip's going to suit. He's obviously fast enough to win at 2 miles. He's just very interested in this race, and I think the market's going to be formed around him. Like, he should be favourite for this. I don't really like this Here Comes Johnny. I'm not a massive fan of Stoner's Choice, but Optimised Prime is the one that I want to mention in this particular race. Now, Ben Pauling's already said that Ballymore is his target. I guess maybe how well he runs in this will depict that as well, and again, how hard a race he has, etc., etc. But he's 66 to 1 for the Ballymore. Now, the Ballymore is... the Albert Bartlett's the most competitive, in fact, that we don't know. There's no like standout contenders, but the Ballymore looks the best of the 3 novice races. The fact that we've got 3 at the head of the market that do look really, really good horses. Now, the fact that I'm talking about Optimised Prime and mentioning his price for a Ballymore is one thing on the side. Like, I'm not saying that Optimised Prime is going to definitely go and win a Ballymore. Obviously, on his rating, he needs to go up £20 to even be near a 150 horse, and he needs to go up a bit more than that to actually win a Ballymore. So let's forget that. Let's forget of him being a potential Ballymore horse. I do think that he is much better than a 66 to 1 poke for the Ballymore. So I feel like this is going to be a betting opportunity to back Optimised Prime, because, as I say, Manila Drama, the race is going to form around him. I think Manila Drama is quite nice. I think the step up in trip's probably going to suit them, but he's not anywhere near a Ballymore horse, is he? But Manila Drama. And Optimised Prime has had these 2 runs where we don't really know what he's beaten. He was ended up in the Leamington, got pulled out of that on accounts of the ground. If we'd have seen him run there and he'd run well, he'd either be coming here off a much higher rating, or he'd be coming here as potentially the favourite in here. I know he's 128 and he's got bits to find with all the horses in the ratings on here, but I don't think he has got that much to find personally. So for me, he's really interesting. Optimised Prime would look a bet for me on Sunday. I haven't really done the forecast tissue for this race because when I like a horse, I can tend to be a little bit swayed, and then I can understand what price they should be, to my mind, and then I can look at a price that I'd like to back them at, and sometimes I'm just a little bit off with it. But I don't know. I don't really like this Here Comes Johnny, so I'd give him very little respect when it comes to form in the book. But, you've got to give him some credit for the fact that he has been winning quite nicely. And it's more than just one occasion where he's gone and won like that, despite the class that he's been running in. I think the bookmakers would probably make him shorter than Optimised Prime, but I'd rather Optimised Prime. Stoner's Choice, again, has been winning races in nice fashion, but again, it's like weaker company, and I don't think the form stacks up as much. So again, personally, I'd say that Optimised Prime could. Well, I think he'll beat Stoner's Choice. I think he'll win this race, is what I'm trying to say. But from a pricing perspective, they should be sticking this Optimised Prime in fourth in. So we'll see what they do with it. I feel like, because I like him, that 4-1, I'd be happy to back him. I'd be trying to put my sensible head on and say that we should get a bit bigger than that, despite only being a 5-runner field. Of the 4 that I've mentioned, forget Fast Deal, the 4 that I've mentioned, he is the worst on ratings. And potentially the depth of his form, when people are looking at it, he might appear to be the worst. But I think he's the best horse in the race. We'll find out, won't we? So yeah, 4-1, I would definitely go in at. I'd be hopeful we might get a little bit more on him, but I'd rate him as a reasonable bet, to be honest. Take a bit of a punt, but like I say, if I mention him with any sort of breath for a Baddymore, I've got to be backing him this weekend, and I do fancy him quite a bit, to be fair. Whether they've decided now that the Leamington they missed a race at Cheltenham when Trials Day was taken off. I don't know whether he's not necessarily gone over the top, or whether they've had to change his training plans. Because if they're thinking about going to Cheltenham, is it just a prep run for it and they're not that fussed about it, or are they going to give him a hard race here and just win this listed race, see how he comes out of it to choose for Cheltenham? I don't know, but I'd just hope that they're trying with him basically on Sunday to find out how good he is, and then rather than saving a bit for the Ballymore, because like I say, he needs to be going quite well in here. So I've waffled a lot about Optimised Prime, but I like him, guys, for Sunday. We'll see what the prices are. If they make him like a 3-1 poke or something, then I'd have to just leave him alone. But hopefully they're not watching this. I think that was all it was over there. Yeah, we'll go to look at Newbury for the rearranged Betfair hurdle card. Decent stuff. You won't need me to talk to you about too many of the horses that are in here, but I've got a few interesting pointers to make. We can, Nobby won the bumper, didn't he, a while back, a couple of years basically off the track. I'm sure he won it, or did he come second behind? That might have been a Paul and horse he was second behind, wasn't it? House Island got beat by, didn't he? That was the one, yeah, the Weber horse. Anywho, been off for a long time, just a name in it irrelevant. I wasn't even trying to mention that one. Let's skim through a few bits of it in here, and I'll talk about the horses that I do quite like. Now, Southfield Harvest is going. Is he Potemps? Paul Nicholls has said something in his stable tour recently that there's a race that he's going for at Cheltenham. I want to say Potemps. Did he qualify for the Potemps? What are we doing looking at it? Yeah, so I think he goes Potemps. So maybe this is a warm-up for it. Who knows? A few weeks before Cheltenham. It's not all about Cheltenham for Nicholls, is it? Del Arca, the boy, isn't he? Right, Denman Chase. I don't want to whittle and talk too much about the whole champ scenario, because that's just not the point of this. This is the point of me talking about stuff that I quite fancy for the weekend and potential pointers going in for stuff. Look, Clanders Oboes, I feel like should be winning this. Not really a lot more I want to say other than that. This should be a race that he's going to go and win. I feel like he'll possibly go into, possibly go Punchestown, but I like Clanders Oboe in here, not for a betting proposition at all. And it's nice to see Terrafort come back, the one-eyed wonder. I know a couple of people quite like Kalashnikov up at this sort of trip. Lost in Translation needs to find a bit more than he's shown the last couple of times, didn't he? But we know that he's capable of that, and he's run well here before, albeit behind Le Bagawa on a couple of occasions. The Condition will be running here, probably prep run before he goes to the Ultima. Dash with Rash is in here, as well as the Ascot Chase on Saturday, so I'm guessing the ground, if it's bad at Ascot, and then this is good to softish, the trip, although it be 2 furlongs different, may feel, as in terms of extremes, about the same for each other. So I'd possibly think that Dashwood Rasser might be better suited to come in here, although he ran so well at Ascot. So I guess we'll just see. Maybe they just held the entries in case something was abandoned because they want to get the run into him. But looks a nice enough race. I do just think that Clanders Obo should be winning this, but I wouldn't be betting in it. The game spirit, I'm semi-tempted to back So Royal in this, to be honest. I think Grenadine wants a bit further, personally. I definitely think Champ is just here just to school fast in a race over fences fast. I don't think they're going to be able to get him into a race. And I think if they ran him in the Denman Chase, Champ, the type of horse it is that he wants to win, he would have been involved at the business end. And I feel like here he's going to go, like, hopefully jump nicely. You know he can make a mistake, but I think he's just going to jump up with him and then just peter out towards the end of the race, and it won't look too suspicious. So Royal's the proper 2-miler that's in here. He's getting £6 from Grenadine. He's getting £3 for Champ. Been behind Altior in this race before. There's like not a lot to knock about him for me, and I think So Royal's about 130 pokes, something like that. So I'll be having a small wager on So Royal. Like, I don't think he's monster value, but he'd be the one that I'd be happy to back at the prices. Betfair Hurdle. No, I haven't done too much on the stats for this year, but normally stats are the way to find the winners in here. There's quite a few that I think are worth a mention. Milkwood has been unlucky the last couple of times. So he was a bit of an eye-catcher in the Welsh Champion Hurdle when he was 4th. He was very eye-catching behind Floressa, where I think a horse like fell or ran out or proper just smashed into him and left him with very little chance. The problem he's got is he wants quick-ish ground, and I don't think they're going to get that for the hurdle course. So watch how other races are going. He could be one to maybe give a chance to, and I think he'll be thereabouts. So you each way muggy punters that just like nicking a bit of place money, I think he'll be there. Mr. Coffee, we'll find out his chances fairly early on because he can be a bit of a head case, but I think Mr. Coffee's of 138 should be very capable of winning this. Likewise for Kadzand, I'm not sure he's as well in as Mr. Coffee for 138, but I think both of them are really, really nice horses. Probably could be a little bit closer in the betting, but that doesn't mean that Kadzand's too short. It probably means that Mr. Coffee's still a little bit too big. There's a few other that potentially have got chances in here, but the ones that I've backed already, I've given for pleasure a little poke as well, because I thought that when it beat Third Time Lucky, I know it nicked it at the start, but I still think that was reasonable-ish form. 145 is probably a little bit steep, but could be the sort of race that could suit him. But he might set it up for some other horses. But yeah, Mr. Coffee, Kadzan would be the two that I've backed anti-post and fairly happy with them. And Reynolds in there in a nice handicap chase. Oh, for 138. Oh. Or I tell you what, I hadn't even really noticed that this guy was running, to be fair, but I do like Enrillo. Hold the note. I know it was. It's the same race as the Leamington Novices Hurdle, the Warwick Chase, where he just got beat and almost lost his novice status. 2 for gold, that was it there. So yeah, in the Hampton Novices Chase. Now he doesn't win at the minute, and his mark is going down and down and down and down, which I like. So at some point, I think he's going to pick up a handicap. I'm just not 100% sold on him as the 3-miler that they keep raving that he is. And then he dropped back at Trip at Christmas, which I thought was the time to back him, because that was the Kempton race where he ran in here where he pulled up, but he was very, very unlucky because he got battered early on in the race. But yeah, he doesn't seem to be in any sort of form at all. So I'd need to see a bit more from him before I could be interested. Again, I don't really like him at this particular trip, but Enrillo's very interesting. I'm just having a look at the booking of Johnny Burke, to be honest, because he's been off him for a few runs, hasn't he? But he's obviously on him when he tries. Interesting one. I'll have a bit more of a look at that. I do like Enrillo. He's one of my horses to follow for the season. I think of 138, he could easily be winning that. So I'll probably give that a second look, see how the market opens up before I could be interested in that. But I'm probably just being silly talking about that one. Right, here we are. On to the good money. So I like historical stuff that trainers do, and I probably shoot myself in the foot for getting too excited about certain things. But there is a horse in this race trained by the trainer of Ballyandy, who won this bumper and then went on to win the Cheltenham Champion bumper. I like to move it right down the bottom, 4-year-old. Now, we know 4-year-olds do all right in the Cheltenham bumper when they run. I think Renegade was a 4-year-old. Fiona was a 4-year-old. Admittedly, they were getting the girls' allowance as well. Maybe Renegade wasn't. Anywho, 4-year-olds have won it. Q Card did it. I like to move it. He's 2 bumper wins that he's won so far, they've been on very different ground, and he's had a nice break before he's come here. But those 2 runs came within a few weeks of each other, so I'd be fairly happy to say that the short run from here to Cheltenham wouldn't bother me. Now, champion bumper winners, this is a fact that is true. Maybe I don't know how far back it goes. I think at least the last 12. You win last time out to win a bumper, so that's why I was so happy that Willie sent Fernie Hollow to go and win a quick bumper before he came to Cheltenham. So basically, whatever wins this bumper, I think has got a chance going into Cheltenham, and obviously it's a case of just finding what we think is going to win it. But I do like this. I like to move it. Versatile in terms of ground. This is the sort of track that will suit him. Slightly worried whether an undulating Cheltenham would suit or not, but he's 40-1 with Bet365. That includes a cash out for the champion bumper. He's only 20-1 non-run and no bet. Now, as I say, you want the horse to win the race before they go into Cheltenham. So how do you play it? Do you play the cash out option and think to yourself, if he gets beat, hopefully they don't remove the cash out and I can cash out? Or if he just gets beat and he goes to Cheltenham, maybe I might slide some of the cash out. Do you back him non-run and no bet at 20s and think, oh, well, if he wins this, he's going to shorten up a bit, when in reality, he might be a 3 or 4-1 poke to win this race, and the only way his price is going to shorten is if he wins. So do you think, do you know what, I might just blow the tenner on him to win this race, and then if he wins, roll the money up? I'm still not really too decided which way I'm going to play it, but I have backed him 40-1 Bet365 while I just wait to figure things out, because if he starts to shorten up, then I won't have the option to get into that price. But yeah, I like to move it. Is one that I'm very, very excited to see running. There was Petrosian of Paul Nicholls that was entered but isn't running. He's a bump horse I really like. He was really, really good around Newbury before, so I'm glad to see he's not here in terms of competition for the guy that I've mentioned there. This horse, the one they are deciding to run, didn't really set the world alight to my eye. They obviously like the horse, but I don't know whether that Petrosian they're saving. Again, I'm talking about Paul Nicholls going mad at Cheltenham, at Aintree. I wonder whether they're saving that Petrosian for Aintree. Autonomous Cloud won in December for Colin Tizard. We know about his yard. This is always a nice bump, and there's always some nice horses that are in it. Good Risk at All as well. Potentially will be, I'm hoping will be making up the market, and then we can get our boy on. But he's there, won the listed hurdle at Cheltenham. That was back in November, so had a nice break from it. So he's obviously got the Cheltenham form, and he won fairly cosily despite the winning margin. Look, it just looks a really nice race, guys, and I think, like, whichever way you're looking at this, Good Risk at All's got to give I like to move it a stone because of the penalty and because of the weight for age allowance. Now, they'll be running off different terms when it comes to Cheltenham. I like to move it wouldn't be getting as much weight, but from a perspective of looking towards the champion bumper and the fact that I've just said you need to win your last race before you go and win there, I think this I like to move it is the one to be looking at. So yeah, that's where I'm looking, and I'm tempted to have a bet on him for the race. Now again, I haven't done the tissue or my forecast price fully because I've only skimmed for a few of the horses there with you, and they're the ones that I've looked at in a bit more depth. But I definitely feel like 4-1-ish. I feel like 7-2 is about the price that he should be. I've like 4-1 plus. I think I'm going to have a bet on him. Not anything overly keen, but I think he's got a proper chance in here. And depending on how hard this race is, depends whether he'll go to Cheltenham or not. But I feel like they're going to be doing the Ballyandy with him. So that's that. We'll move on to a bit of Irish racing now. Navan. We'll go fairly quickly through Navan because, as I say, the Red Mills card was taken out. You'll see a name right at the top of the list there. Cocoa Beach running in the 10-up Novice Chase. Now, lots of people were touting him for handicaps at Cheltenham. His marks pushed him quite high. People are now thinking that he's going to go National Hunt Chase. Keith Donoghue put something in a blog saying that he might be more of an Irish Grand National type. Now, I know Gordon will know what he's doing with these horses, but I just wonder here, win this 10-up Novice Chase, 20 grand for first. It's a small field. It's his race for the taking. Avoid Cheltenham and then do what they want to do with that after seems more logical to me. Now, I know other horses have used this as a qualification race to go on to the National Hunt Chase, so people will be getting excited about that. And fair play if they do bring him over, because I'd like to see him at Cheltenham. But just bear that in mind slightly, that it's not all about Cheltenham, and maybe this horse. Now, I know the handicap mark there, what I'm saying is, they're saying Irish Grand National, he's going to have to read like a proper horse to be winning it off of that sort of mark, and that is the case. But I don't know, just those comments that came out, I thought he'd be probably National Hunt Chase bound, but worth bearing in mind slightly. Nothing in the handicap chase. There is the Boyne Hurdle, so the comeback of Tiger Roll. Now, I talked about Tiger Roll's comeback last year in a write-up that I did. I'll do exactly the same, referencing and all that sort of stuff for how he runs in here. But if you look on paper, the official ratings of the horses that he's running against, and the terms that he comes in here on, where would you think that Tiger Roll should be finishing, considering he's a national horse? Well, I think that like Fury Road, if he's going to be a Stayers Hurdle winner, should be winning this. 2 Mile 5 should be the dream for him, despite giving weight away to horses. But he's going to have to run up to that sort of level to be able to go and win at Cheltenham. So Fury Road would be the one. Beacon Edge at this trip is really nice horse. I obviously love Six Shooter. I can't talk about him enough, so I won't talk about him in this one. Scarpetta was a horse that I thought was going to be good a couple of years ago. Never really panned out. But we've got, basically, when we look at adjusted figures, we've got 150 rating. He's going to be about good enough to be involved in here. Will Tiger be able to run to 150? Probably, like possibly. I just feel like Tiger should be, like, you could see Tiger Roll being last in this if he was close enough and it not being a problem. But I'd like to think that there'll be a few horses in behind him. But everything, there's not any no hopers in here completely. So be an interesting one. It's not all about just Tiger Roll, is it? But it'll be interesting to see how he goes. I'd like to see him run well, and that would be a boost for Cheltenham, because I do wonder whether they're going to just look at Cheltenham as the big race to win this year, because it's not easy to go and win a Grand National, whereas he's only really got one horse at Cheltenham to beat, and but I'd like to see him running well in this, because he needs a decent reappearance run. I put that in that write-up before. Anywho, enough warbling about this. Wouldn't be a betting race for me. Would just want to watch. Looks an okay race. The Mercedes-Benz, this has been rearranged. That was cancelled on Thursday. I like a few horses that are in here, but the one that I do probably like more than the others is Manila Escape. 33s he currently is for the Albert Bartlett. The race that he won the last day was pretty impressive victory, and it was the sort of run as well off the back of a first start after a break and the fall. So this fall that he had here when he was short price favourite, he was travelling quite nicely, but he looked like he was out on his feet, and he looked like he needed the run desperately. Because of that, when he ran next time out, I wanted to watch him, but I just thought, you know what, I felt like he needed the run so much that he's probably going to need it again, which is what happened. And I sort of forgave him when he came into this race, and I did back him this day. And he won fairly comfortably. Now, it is just one line of form out of those three, but if he backs that up by going and winning this race, which is a grade race, admittedly, it's only a grade 3, I think it puts him in the forefront for an Albert Bartlett picture. Now, whether he's going to be good enough to actually win an Albert Bartlett, I don't know, but you look at the ratings there, 128, 128. He doesn't need to be much to beat this lot. So I like Manila Escape, and I think in the manner that I think he could win this race, because I think he wants a proper test. 33 for the Albert Bartlett's like semi-tempting to have a little feel about. I think he'll win this race. Ragnar Lodbrok's a horse that I do really, really like, but I'd be disappointed if he won this. I wouldn't be looking at him thinking, oh, he's an Albert Bartlett horse, but maybe I'm being a bit harsh. That is pretty much it for Navan. Ginto's back in the bumper, Big Money Purpose that got beat, so be interesting to see how he goes. One last thing, if anyone's managed to last this long, because this was supposed to be short and I've probably gone on for a couple of hours, is there's the Martin Purcell Novice Hurdle. So 5 o'clock front view running this last year. Blow by Blow won this before he went and won the Martin Pipe. I always look at this race for clues to what horses could be going Martin Pipe. Now, in the betting, the only one that I think I'd want on my shortlist for this race and then going towards Cheltenham, the only one that's in the betting for the Martin Pipe is Percy Warner. Like I said, the ones I'm interested in. I'm hoping Streets of Doyen goes Albert Bartlett. Percy Warner, Fighter Allen, Frere Tuck, and Grand Paradis are the 4 that I'm interested in for potential Martin Pipe horses. Grand Paradis and Percy Warner are both Gordon Elliott. Fighter Allen, Frere Tuck are both Willie Mullins. But they're just these little bits that I like for potential plotty horses, really. Is Percy Warner. When we're looking for horses to improve, you want to look for something that's got to change. So they've got to do something different. Now, this horse, point-to-point winner. Not all point-to-point winners want the trip just for the sake of it, but he's had 2 spins on crappy ground over 2 miles, and he's got 2 wins in there. Now, they're not worldy wins, but he's beaten a couple of okay horses there, to be fair. And you see from the Racing Post ratings in the 130s, he's not beating nobody's in there. If we do go and look at the breeding just to see for siblings if there's any stamina in the racing sphere, because obviously he'll be stepping up to go the 2.5 mile. I think his point form and the way that he's performed in those suggests enough that he would be happy stepping up. But this just looks like a nice one, that this is the first step up in trip for him this season. in the Martin Purcell, a race that Gordon Elliott uses to go onto a Martin Pipe. There we go. We're being a bit crap with the stuff that's in there, but yeah, you can dig into the breeding to look for the stuff, but this horse will definitely stay. So the fact he's going to step up is quite nice. Fighter Allen's on the other end of the scale, half brother to Envoy Alan. He's actually been running over a little bit further. He was behind Tory Graph the last day. He's dropping back in trip, and I think dropping back in trip's actually going to suit this horse. Even when he won first time up, always doing enough. Like, I think he looked like he was a bit more of a speedier horse, and he was a second season novice. There you can see he ran in a grade 2, and that was back over 2 miles. Never a factor, ran pants, admittedly, but I feel like that's the trip that he should be going at. I think he's a speedy type. So the fact that he's going back, interesting to me. Freya Tuck lightly raced, quite like him, and the same goes for Grand Paradis, lightly raced. So those 4 are on my shortlist. Only one of them, Percy Warner's priced up for the Martin Pipe. We'll see what goes on in the week, but that's Thursday. I definitely think there'll be clues for it, and something will be back. Like Front View was eye-catching last year, got smashed. 5 o'clock was even backed on the day. It's a race you need to pay attention to towards the Martin Pipe. The interesting bit with this as well is going to be that we're going to have the entries for the handicaps by the time this race is going to go off. So they close 22nd and they'll be published with us 23rd, maybe like 24th absolutely latest, but I think we'll get them 23rd. So we can see which of these have been entered in the Martin Pipe before they run in this race. So again, of those 4 that I've put you on the shortlist there, if only 2 of them are in, I'd be looking at getting them priced up and getting them backed in for the Martin Pipe before they run in this race, or at least holding them on a bet slip while this race is running to see if you can get on. So again, sorry that I've warbled so long. I wanted to do something for this weekend because there's a few bets that I potentially will be having and a few things looking towards Cheltenham. Hopefully it's been of some use to you guys. I'm always keen to know what you're thinking below. I've got a handicap live that I'll be doing next week on Facebook. I'll be doing that through YouTube as well. That's in between the entries and the weights coming out, where I'll be making a shortlist for every single race, and I'll be putting some potential marks in for Irish horses, the ones that I like in there. How that normally plays out for me is if we've got some Irish horses where I'm saying they should be given a mark of 140 and they end up coming out above that, I start to think to myself, right now the British have got a better handle in this race. If those Irish ones I liked have been abused in their ratings. If the Irish ones have not been abused in their ratings and they're coming in looking potentially light, then all of a sudden it's the Irish ones on the shortlist, or at least the ones that have been given a nice mark, that take more prominence. As you can probably expect, most years when I do that, the Irish come out much better and it's fairly obvious how to look at the races. But if you're not looking at the entries and not trying to give some of these horses your own UK mark, you're missing a trick, because you will never have the opportunity again to do it. It's like pricing up a market before any bookmaker's done it. That's the time to do it. If you price it up once there's any market out there, you've already had an external influence. So once you see their Irish mark or their British marks, and then you go back and someone says, oh, this horse looks good on its mark after, yes, you may be able to make a case after, but you want to make the case beforehand and before you have any influence from the handicapper. So admittedly, it's not straightforward and people haven't got the time to do it, which is why I'll do my show next week and I'll go through it and we'll talk about some of those horses. We'll do some live comments in there, and if you've got any horses you want me to give my view on what mark they should be, we can do that as well. So cheers again and be lucky.